I think at first, for those who don't know me, who weren't in my teacher training course, I'm just briefly going to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie. I'm 26 and I'm German. I did my Ashak yoga teacher training exactly a little bit more than a year ago, so in March 2015. And I've been teaching ever since, and I'm greatly enjoying it, really. I started my yoga. I came to yoga originally because I did a lot of endurance running at the time, and I was kind of looking for something to balance that out a little bit, and that's how I found yoga. And I used to go to classes that a close friend of mine taught, and at first I really just didn't really take it too seriously, and eventually after some time I started asking questions, and that's how I got more into it, I would say. So for about 2.5 years I've been practicing every day. I've made the commitment to practice 6 times a week. So I practice Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday I don't practice. That's my rest day. For me, what suits me best is to practice in the morning. So I get up, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, and then I get on my mat. And I do a little bit of pranayama to start, about 15 minutes of pranayama, and then about between an hour and hour and a half of asana, I think. And yeah, so that's what my yoga routine looks like. And structure for the session today. And at first, I think we could start by talking about the physical aspects of the practice and of how to stay motivated for the practice, and then later move on to the spiritual aspect of it. So basically, for me, when I practice yoga, my main thing that I have on the physical side is that I want to feel everything. Like, it's a complete experience for me. I want to feel my body and all the sensations that are going on in the practice. So I want to feel the muscles hugging to my bones and strengthening and like shaking. I want to feel the effect that it has on my cardiovascular system, like how my heart's pumping, how I'm sweating, and like my breath is going. And then lastly, I want to feel the effect that it has on my nervous system. And I think that's something that's very unique when it comes to yoga, because it lets you experience firsthand and very directly how your breath has an impact on your entire body and on all the functions of your body, basically. So that's the first thing. That's an intention I always set every day when I practice, to just kind of make that commitment to go through that experience. And then I also think it's very fun to just push physical boundaries and to play and to see what your body can do, and just kind of have fun with it. And there are always poses that seem like oh so impossible. Like, I remember when I started practicing, I always wanted to do king pigeon. I thought it was just the coolest pose ever, and I have a really hard time with back bends. So I'm not very backbendy. It's definitely something that I constantly need to work on. But that was like one of my main things that I wanted to do. But I was very far away from that when I started. And then, but like, you put in the work, you practice every day, and it gets a little bit easier every day. So you kind of chip away at that mountain, and you get there. And now it's in my daily practice. Like, I do it every day, and it's not a big deal anymore. So I think what's kind of nice about that is that it makes you really humble. It's like nobody can do that work for you. You have to do it. If you don't show up every day for yourself, it's not going to happen. You need to make that happen. And so that brings me to something very profound and something very, on the one hand, honest, because you have to start where you actually are in that moment. You can't fake it. And on the other hand, it makes you humble, as I said. And something that I think is very important in yoga, it teaches you faith. It teaches you to really believe in yourself and in your abilities and capabilities. And I think as a teacher, from a teaching perspective, I can only teach something that I know and that I have experienced and that I know how to get through, kind of. So I think if you practice every day and if you practice by yourself, it makes you able to connect to your students a lot better, and for them to be able to trust you a lot better, because you're teaching something that you know. And so that's another motivation for me to keep doing it and to stick with it. Like, even there's days when it's obviously very hard to get up and you prefer to sleep in. So basically it cultivates a lot of qualities in your character, and it helps you to really specifically develop qualities that you're looking for. And also what I also like to tell my students that I think it's a really nice like you don't practice yoga for the asanas. You like what you can do on your mat. Frankly, it's not so important. It's rather when you go outside, like what you can do in the real world. Because what yoga basically is, it teaches you to breathe through the most like uncomfortable, impossible postures, and that's basically what translates directly to your everyday life, I think, or how I have experienced it from my point of view. So I don't know. I was wondering how you guys felt about that. Do you are you having a difficult time about like to stay disciplined and to practice regularly? Are you agreeing with what I'm saying? Like, what do you think? Do you want to say something? Becca, do you want to start? Oh no, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I have very little motivation when it comes down to it. But that point that you just said about it teaching you, it's got sort of nothing to do with what you're doing on the mat, is probably the most articulate way I've heard that sort of being like how I feel being explained, and it's that line is probably the thing that would most motivate to keep practicing, because that's what I found, and I was talking to Kate about it when I got home from India, is there was like something just felt different and I didn't quite know what it was, but it was like, I used to be a really angry person, but I'm just not. I would just look at things very differently, and I think that you saying that like the self-practice will just perpetuate that growth, like just keep breathing through shit, really. The traffic in Sydney, and makes it easier to
handle. I also think it's I find it kind of funny that there is this perception that when you like people think that you can be like angry and like so tense all the time, and then you get onto your yoga mat and then you can be super chilled. Where for me, I have to say it's completely the other way around. Like I want to be chilled in life, and if I want to be angry and tense, that's the place to be angry and tense on my mat, and not like not take that somewhere else, but just rather deal with it for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the patience that I think it's just on the mat. And I think, finally I'm being a bit patient in my life is by motivating myself to stay on the mat for half an hour or something. But it's really just a moment that you're appreciating it before you're pushing it out into the rest of sort of how you are.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good one.
Okay, shall we, do you guys have more thoughts, or shall we move on to the spiritual aspects that I have prepared?
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, love. Dan, your hair is so short. You gave all your hair to me.
Yes, I've had a really difficult time coming back. I pretty much haven't really been doing yoga at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I had a pretty good self-practice for the first couple weeks, and then it just kind of stopped. It's really hard to find the motivation, and it's like, how do you cultivate that every day? I don't know. It's maybe if I like brew coffee for myself the night before and like smell that or something to get up before work, because I know if I do it before I start my day, it like you feel so much better. Yeah, it's just figuring out the process to like get going, I guess.
Okay. I feel like it's hard to fit it into everyday life as well. It's like I want to do it, but I've got so much other stuff going on, and like it's hard enough trying to like do my washing or like find the motivation to actually cook dinner when I get home from uni or something like that, and not just eat leftovers again. But like, and I've always felt like with exercising, like if you're going to do it or you're going to do something like that, you have to do it so that it fits into your life. Like if you're not a morning person, there's no point saying I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. every morning
like it's better off to go, oh yeah, I'm going to go for a run 5 times this week, and I'm going to do it when it suits me. That suits me. Like if that's at night time, or if it's after lunch or whatever, do it then, rather than being like, I have to do it in the morning because that's when you exercise. Like, I don't know, but just figuring out how to be that dedicated and fit it into a practice, I feel is like where I'm struggling with it. With like you, Shan, like I came back and I was like, yeah, doing it all the time, and like I was aiming to do it like 5 or 6 times a week, and then it just like meow stop.
No, I think it's extremely helpful to when you it took me a long time to build a proper home practice. I really have to say, I found it extremely difficult to just be, like get like I got on my mat. I was like, okay, what now? Like what do I do? What postures do I do? How do I make a sequence, and like do I write it down before? I found that really difficult in the beginning. So here's what I did. I subscribed to an online yoga channel, and I used to do online yoga classes quite a bit. Like I used to practice with like an online class about 4 or 5 times a week, I think. And it really helped me because you can do it whenever you want. So it really fits your schedule. And if you can't do it in the morning, I mean, of course, adjust. Like if the morning's not a good time for you, then maybe lunchtime is, or like whenever. It doesn't have to even be the same time every day. And but I think that when you do online classes, I still do every other week or so. I still do an online class because it's nice to get some inspiration and like see what other people do and how they put their sequences together. It's also nice for teaching because you get a little bit of like different inputs from different teachers, and so that was really helpful for me in the beginning. But then I think eventually, after it's taken me about 9 months, I would say, to really move away from those online classes because with time, as my asana got more and more advanced, not like how do I say this, like you need to work on what's right for your body. Like I said, back bends are very difficult for me. I know that I need to practice a lot of back bends, and not a lot of classes do a lot of back bends. So you kind of need to find a way to adjust it to what you want. But then on the other hand, in the beginning, I would do online classes and do my back bends afterwards. So you just kind of have to find a way to make it work for you. And also, I think it's important to let go of the idea to have you don't have to have a 1.5 hour Olympian practice every day. It doesn't need to be like that. So if you can make time for a full hour, you just go 20 minutes and you stretch a little bit. Or if you went out the night before and you feel super hungover, so you just do a little yin. You know, it doesn't have to be like a super intense class every day. I think it needs to fit you.
You know what's
what were the online classes?
I use this platform that's called Yoga 30. But there is many. I think there is quite a few. I think the one that I use is, I think it charges you about $10 American a month, something like that. So it's like if you use it a lot, it's really worth your money. And there is a whole lot of classes with really good.
cool.
And also maybe I think I just want to touch on quickly on the spiritual part of the practice because after India, I was really hungry for more spiritual study and to find out more and to see what else is out there. So I've ever since I've continuously studied the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and there is a sutra in the second book that talks about the realization of suffering. So in Sanskrit, it's Dukkha eva sarvam. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but it means all indeed is suffering. And at the beginning when I read it, I was like, that's a little bit harsh. Like I didn't really know what to do with it, but then kind of it planted the seed in my mind that everything in the material world will one day lead you to suffering. And I guess it kind of makes sense because if you think about it, like you have a favorite pillow and it's so comfortable and you sleep on it every night and you love it so much you can't sleep without it, and you take it to travel and it breaks, you know, the feathers come out and you have to throw it out, you can't use it anymore, and your pillow, it's gone, you're sad, it causes you suffering. And that's basically how it goes with everything. So the human condition is that we seek things that are pleasurable for us and we generate attachment towards those things. And then on the other hand, we try to avoid the things that are unpleasurable for us and we generate aversion. So I think it's important to become conscious of that we make our decisions based on sensory pleasure. I don't think you can necessarily change that, But I think that through the vehicle of yoga, you can kind of find your way out within, and you can look inside yourself to seek for things that are, you just kind of break that cycle. It's a little bit difficult to explain, and I think until you have fully understood that, it's stout yoga. I always used to think like, yoga's good, but maybe it's not as good as going on a vacation. I'll just go to the beach instead. Or maybe, I don't know, this asana is great, but maybe it's not as good as cycling. It'll make my bum look much nicer. Things like that. And I think until you have realized the Sarvam, all indeed is suffering, you can't fully commit to the spiritual practice of yoga. So that was a turning point for me. That has really changed my motivation to practice. Maybe I have sometimes in my classes I do a little exercise at the end of it with my students where you maybe we can do that together, because I think it kind of explains nicely what yoga is. It's like when you just close your eyes for a moment and take a second to think about yourself 10 or 15 years ago. Like, what attributes would you ascribe to yourself? How were you? Just kind of think about that for a little bit and come up with, I don't know, 3 or 4 adjectives to describe yourself 10 or 15 years ago. And then when you've come up with those adjectives, then think about yourself right now and think about how you would describe yourself right now, and maybe in what ways you would change your personality, or in what ways you kind of stayed the same. So now maybe you realize that there is a change in the personality, and that you're different now than from what you were like 10 or 15 years ago. And so I think that illustrates very nicely that even though your adjectives and your character might change a little bit, your true essence, who you truly are, you're still the same person. You're still the same. Your purusha, your seer, is still the same. It's always there. Maybe you go through, I don't know, different personality traits, different stages in your life, obviously, but you remain the same. And I think yoga shows you, or helps you discover who that is and what that true self really is, that lies beneath all the personality traits. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And also, maybe I can share with you guys, I have a couple of little, like, motivation doses that I need sometimes. Like, I set the alarm on my iPhone every morning, and you know how it gives you this little, you can write like a line or like a little message that you wake up to? So mine says, "Rise and shine, little yogi." That's what I wake up to every day. So it's just kind of, like a dose of self-love in the morning. You read that, and it's just kind of a nice feeling. And yeah, I've already said about the online classes. Also, I ever since I started a home practice where I do my own stuff, where I practice my own poses, I have like little projects that I work on. I like something I want to do, like an asana that's cool, or whatever. And then I think if you work on that specifically and you track your progress, it's kind of nice and motivating to see that how you get better, because you do get better, and if you practice consistently, it works fast. It really like some things take a lifetime, and other things just come relatively quick depending on what you want to do. Yeah. How do you feel that that you, like, since you got back from India, do you feel that your practice has changed over that time? Or do you feel? Let me rephrase. Do you feel that ever since you've done your yoga teacher training, that your practice has changed in the sense that you don't feel as comfortable going to classes, or that you put a lot of pressure on yourself because you think you're expected to practice more?
I issues with it because no is awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's been really difficult to find something that gave me as much joy as I felt. And I think what I've been struggling with.
Okay. So are you finding it hard to find a teacher? Or are you not specifically looking for a teacher?
Yeah, I'm not even specifically looking for a teacher. It's whatever class I take, I don't, like, it's fine, but I don't get as much out of it as...
They're all workout, fitness oriented.
Yeah.
What teachers are trying to do, and it's fine, but after involving you need something, you can't go back to that and experience it the same way as you did.
Do you guys still do spiritual study? Do you know of some place that you can go where you can, like, I don't know, like chanting classes or any other kind of devotional practice? Because I kind of miss that here. I don't really get that. I get myself, like, what I read and stuff, but I don't really get to share it with anybody else, I think.
I feel like there must be something about, like, especially
Newtown.
Yeah, like where we are, but I haven't found it yet either.
I've not been looking.
Miss that.
Yeah, I miss it, but
I've that connected part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't found anything really.
Yeah,
I haven't studios that I've been to, and they've sort of touched on it a little bit, but it's not as deep, I suppose, and like I haven't cried in any of the classes or anything, so like they haven't got me to that point yet. Like there was one, and we were doing hip openers, man, that always gets me, but yeah, like it's not G, it's not India.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm also, like, I've been thinking about, I think there is actually a demand for what we're doing here, basically, so that people, I would love to go to a class where we don't necessarily practice asana. I feel like I can get that in a lot of places. That's not something that's so important to me, but rather, yeah, like the spiritual aspect of it. Like I found a teacher, I just came back from a semester abroad in Portugal, and I found this teacher in Lisbon who studied with Patavi Joyce for a long time and who taught Ashtanga. And I went to practice with her, and she was brilliant. She was really, really good. And they also offered like chanting of the sutras, and I really enjoyed that. But I feel like I can't find that anywhere here. So maybe that's something that we could think about, where there's a niche for us, because if we feel that way, I'm sure a lot of other people feel that way.
I feel like I haven't felt that way since I've come home from India, though. And I feel like I would fit in with the majority here now before I went away. So having come home, I'm thirsty for it, but I feel like I understand why people don't get it, because they haven't done what we've done. Yeah. Sort of. I feel like there's definitely a market for it. I think it's something that's new for me to want it, like since I got home in December, though. So
I'm also really skeptical of like teachers trained in the West.
Yeah.
The majority of them are. I feel like I'm a bit pretentious. I'm like, I trained in India, so I know what it's really meant to be like. Whereas like some people trained in London or whatever from like some white chick, it's not the same. I don't know.
I totally get it.
I've had it the other way around, hey? I applied for a job at a studio here, and they were like, oh, you were trained in India. We're not so sure what they teach there.
Oh my god!
But she was a very, very rude lady. Like, she also, yeah. But that's the reaction that I got for that. So it's a little bit... Sorry?
Did she understand where yoga came from?
yeah? Is that what you mean?
So I'm not too sure. Yeah, but it's interesting that you feel that way because that happened to me. I rather feel like it's a little bit of a handicap sometimes.
Which is, I guess, that's why I mean that. Like, I feel like that's what it is here for so many people, which is why like the chanting and the spiritual side is not as big a part of yoga here as what we understand it to be, which is like I even feel a little funny chanting when like even just like the opening shanties and stuff like that, like just a really basic opening and closing chant. Sometimes I'm like, oh, we're gonna chant now, and hopefully, you know, half people are involved. When Chloe comes along, it's like, yeah, louder! But sometimes it's not well received, and that's not even like the good stuff. So yeah, I feel like Western yoga is still way too prominent.
Got a long way to go.
Yeah,
that's true. I feel that way too, and I think it's so interesting that like sometimes you know how people make fun of it. And they're like just on Monday, I had dinner with a couple of friends, and they were like, "Do you really chant in your classes?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's part of yoga, and if you understand where it comes from and what the chanting does to you and like to your mind and everything, then it's it's not something funny. But like I feel that sometimes when I in class, that people kind of like blink and look at each other and like
yeah. There was one class at Lentils where I teach where they literally just did an hour of omming. It was just, there was no asanas. It was like an hour of chanting. And it was just
called Lentils.
Yeah, oh yeah, lentil is anything. That's where I teach.
That's brilliant.
Sorry, Shan, I think I cut you off before.
Okay, I found that reaction to what you have with chanting with a lot of people just coming back and being like, yeah, like I trained in yoga. Like everyone kind of like slyly makes fun of it. Like, oh, you can levitate now, right?
Right.
I'm going to because the yogic superpowers, am I right? But yeah, just like it's interesting how negative people can react to something they don't understand, and it's something that you find spiritual and amazing, and it scares people, is what I found too. Because right after I left the program, I was in Delhi, and I made friends with one of the girls at the hostel, and the whole time, she kept being like, teach me yoga on the roof, teach me yoga on the roof. But then, when I finally did, they were just like laughing through it, like weren't taking it seriously, and it kind of like automatically, like coming right from the program and going right to that, like took me down a notch. Like, oh man, when I start teaching, I'm going to have to deal with this all the time. Of like, I find this so amazing and so awesome, and realizing that not like people are gonna be kind of snarky about it at first because when they don't understand what you've had a great understanding about, it's just figuring out maybe how to translate it without like hurting yourself in the process too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that stems from insecurities that other people probably have. And like I mean, how often have we all heard, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible enough, and then they make fun of the posture. It happens all the time. But I think it's very, very difficult to adjust your strategy to deal with that accordingly. Because on the one hand, like, yeah, we can laugh in yoga, and yeah, we can make fun of the posture, that's fine. And like, nobody comes to yoga to get more stressed. But then on the other hand, I think there does come a point when it's like, okay, enough now. Now you need to be quiet and like dive into the experience, kind of. It's difficult.
I think there's also a really big part of like religion and spirituality, and that's a really, really fine line with people who don't understand it. And so, I mean, I was raised one religion, and someone else was raised another, and it's like talking about spirituality is a completely different thing. But if you have any kind of religious upbringing, like as opposed to completely agnostic, then it's like I feel like people feel like you're pushing something, and it's not. You're not talking about a religion, and you're talking about self growth, and it's universal stuff. But I think that that's the huge barrier, and the same with chanting. Before when I very, very first sort of started going to yoga that had chanting in it, like well before India, I was always a little bit like, I'm happy to do this, but I want to understand what I'm saying and who I'm worshipping, kind of thing. So it's like a lot of places sort of don't even explain what's shanty, you know, like is that the same as the Holy Spirit kind of thing, or is it completely, you know, I think it's just, I feel like there's a huge barrier because people are so like, don't push your religion on me, and then understanding spirituality as a separate thing, and I feel like that's a massive barrier.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. And what was kind of awesome was by the end of my time hanging out with this girl in Delhi, finally I was just like, because she just kept being like, oh, you're so hippy dippy, which is like really flippant. And like, do you have a problem with people who are like hippy dippy at all? Or like, she's like, honestly, it kind of intimidates me because I don't want to release that much emotion. I was like, whoa, you got some deep shit to work through, girl. Like, let's get into this one.
Wow. And Shan, you're so hard. Like, of course. Like, I can only imagine how ridiculous you thought you were. Like, and I mean that in the most beautiful way, but like, you were just like this, like, beautiful blossom, like, and I can imagine how much love and light you were putting out there. So, like, for her to be like, "What? You're so hippy dippy," like, it would have been so funny.
That's a really cool experience that you had there, though. Like, it's really nice that she was brave enough to say that, because I mean, she might have some stuff to work through, but it's cool for her to acknowledge that and to even share that with you.
Yeah, well, obviously she felt comfortable enough to share it with you that you would accept her as that.
You should have started like casting some spell on her straight away. Be like,
like, said something in Sanskrit just to freak her out.
Yeah. Shakrasana or something.
Think you guys have any thoughts on self-practice and on how to stay motivated?
To go back to the asana side of things, sometimes when I really don't want to do anything, just like 5 or 10 sun salutations and you feel like it again. Like, if you don't want to think about what asanas to do and you're really not in the mood, a couple of half sun salutations and all of a sudden you feel like it.
Yeah, or even just when you're watching TV on the couch. Like, sometimes I practice like deep stretches on the couch. It's really nice because it gives you, or in your bed even, because it gives you that like the cushion, and you can make it super comfortable, and you just kind of hang out in the stretch.
Yeah. Like really passive, and then all of a sudden your brain's like, I can do more than this.
So, any other questions? Sorry.
Are you studying?
In real life or in yoga life?
In real life, or are you working full time, or like?
Oh no, I study. I do. I'm currently writing my master's thesis, and I'll be done in August. But I usually study. So I'm a full-time student. But I have to say, I just got done with an internship, and I found it even easier. But I found it a little bit easier to include yoga in my work life, because then it's a certain time that you get up every day, and it's I found it easier to, when I know I have to be somewhere in 2 hours, I need to start now, because sometimes what happens is I talk to my flatmate and I have breakfast first, and I put it off and then I rather do online shopping. I rather read this article for my classes, and then I only get to practice in the afternoon. But sometimes when you know you have to do it now or you won't do it at all, I find it a little bit easier.
Yeah, because you got a strict schedule.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thing at the moment. But also with, I think yoga helps, or like practice really helps with it. I do, and I feel anxious about, university stuff or whatever. I like to do stretching because it puts me in that really calm and safe place. It's like you get into your zone and you come back to what's really important. I once had I read this quote. I don't know who said it, but things that matter the most should never give way to things that matter the least. And like when I got back to my mat and to my breath and to my body, it's even though that might sound a little bit cheesy, I remember that that's what really important to me. It's not so much about the quotations in my thesis, and it's not so much about the applications that I write for jobs that I want to do. It's much more about how I feel and how I experience my life and my feeling here. Yeah. So I think that's maybe some nice words to end on.
Do you have a dedicated space where you practice?
Sorry?
Do you have a dedicated space where you practice in your home, or just?
Yes. I find it a little bit difficult to find a place where it's really appropriate to because I was living in Portugal. My room wasn't very big, and sometimes like when you practice handstands and inversions, and you know you're gonna fall, then you need space to fall safely. And I didn't have a lot of that in Portugal, but now that I'm back in Munich where I live, I have because I just moved into a new apartment and I put the furniture in a specific way, so I do have space and I do practice in the same spot every day. I don't like to move around. Does anybody else have? You know what's one of my biggest distractions during practice? I look at the floor next to me, and I just can't help but think that, I have to vacuum here again. That happens so often.
Yeah. I get like 2 postures in and get into Savasana, and that's all I can think is about the carpet. So I'm not great with the creativity in self-practice. So I'm looking forward to these classes, Yoga 30 or whatever it was that you said, because that's the thing that 100%, that and being lazy and not having time, that's what stops me from sort of doing my practice. I like just being told what to do. I don't like deciding.
No, really try the online classes. That really has greatly helped me. And I think it's also it depends on the website that you're using, but the one that I named, Yoga 30, it has all kinds of different filters. So you can filter for styles. You can go for like flowy vinyasa or rather like deep stretch and stuff like that. And I think it's really cool that you can like specifically look for what you need. And I can also recommend there is a teacher. Her name, or she calls herself Yogi Nora, and I think she's really really good. She has. I know that she has YouTube classes, I think. And if you ever get a chance to practice with her, I think she's truly amazing, and she has a lot of that. A lot of the spirituality that goes with it. And for example, she even has on Yoga 30, she has like an enlightenment lecture where she talks about basically what we're talking about now, like how to stay motivated and what yoga really is to her. And she has, she just shows us little things, like she shows a neti pot. And so when I watched it, I was like, yes, you're a yogi. Like you're really doing the real thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
We've just found her on the site. Oh, she wanted to switch places with Beyonce. I like what I'm seeing.
Look her up. She's really good.
Yeah, cool. You were saying before how you find it hard for chanting and things, like in class, and like making noises. I found that if you just do it, like the teachers a lot of times embrace it. I took a hot yoga class a couple times, and there's just certain points where like when we're on our bellies, I was just like, and the teacher was like, you could tell it made people uncomfortable, but the teacher was just like, to exhale and really make like a breath, go ahead and do that. And so, some do translate, even if you just have to be like the weirdo in the class, because it might just open up people's eyes to be like, oh, maybe I could do that. I'm not like, might as well try it.
Yeah, but I'm always the weirdo in the class now. Like, if anything happens that's like, you know, the teacher will sometimes just make a little joke or something, I'm always cracking up.
Like, fully hilarious. She's like the loudest laugher in the class.
Because I'm like, it's okay to laugh, and I can't help it, because I just want to laugh sometimes in class. Or like, yeah, making noises and stuff. Like, it's okay to do those things. And I'm like, if I do it, then maybe other people will loosen up a little bit as well. And then we can all have a laugh or make like a big exhalation noise and just release.
I encourage people to fart as well.
That's why I do yoga, is to fart. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's the safe space. I have to work really hard in the classes that I teach to get people to laugh a bit. It's like not like making myself a comedian or whatever, but like there's like in balanced postures, it'll be like you do the posture and then it's like just try and push it. Try and make yourself like push your balance so that you fall over, and then it takes a little while before a few people like, you know, like close your eyes or go on your toes or whatever, and they start to knock over, and then find like they'll laugh because they've fallen on their neighbor or whatever, and it's like, okay, we're here, guys. Like, let's make noises and stuff. So it's hard to break that barrier sometimes, though.
Yeah.
Get people to loosen up and be like, you know, yoga isn't all super serious.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have fun with it.
Yeah.
No, like not at all. Nobody comes to yoga to get more stressed and to be more tense.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good saying.
But some people do come to yoga and do get more stressed. But it depends on the personality type, because like they get so caught up in like, oh, I can't do that. Like, I need to be able to do this, and like you see that like redness come up in their face, and you just want to be, can I help you?
Yeah, they're trying to do it right.
I constantly say it's not a big deal unless you make one out of it. Like nobody, like get over it. Nobody cares if you can stand on your head or not. It's like you're the only person in the world that matters to.
Yeah.
I do though.
Yeah.
Every time I do yoga, now at the end when, like, even if it's just like the teacher does a very short namaste, I do the whole like ritual, and I sit there for a while, and in my head, like, I close my eyes and I like namaste to all of my like fake neighbors, like in India. Like in my head, I imagine like all the people, and so like I like say like namaste to all of them, which is kind of crazy, but it makes it feel like united.
I always namaste, and I'm like,
I tell people to namaste their neighbors, and they're always like, what? And that's when it's like Chloe and Mitch are like, namaste!
And I think that's another thing along the lines of when people in class are trying so hard to, like, and they're getting stressed out, they also they feel like they're in competition with the neighbors, and so when you ask them to namaste to their neighbors, it's like, wait, what? We're breaking, like, you're like breaking a wall, which I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to keep aware of that. Thank you, ladies, for joining today and for discussing and sharing your insights and everything. And if you don't have any more questions or any more concerns, I think we can call it a day.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Steffi, you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you feel motivated to practice.
I did. I wrote notes.
Perfect.
Shannon, of course you did.
I saw you with your pen at the beginning. I was like,
Classic Shan.
she's into it.
There wonderful day, and I'm going to virtually namaste to you guys now.
Namaste. Thank you.
Chat soon, okay?
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.